How's it going guys, Kris here with another Battlefield 5 gun guide. And today we're going to be checking out the Ithaca Model 37 in all of its glory. A pump action shotgun for the support class that became available in Chapter 6, Into the Jungle. So the Ithaca Model 37 was designed to rival another pump action shotgun that had become very popular over the years of its creation, the Winchester Model 12. And since it was first made prior to World War I, the Model 12 was a very successful firearm, pretty much dominating the market with its hammerless design. Inspired by the Remington Model 17, one of John Browning's shotguns designed during the First World War, the Ithaca Gun Company decided to make a similar pump action shotgun with modifications, but they couldn't do so until patents on the Model 17 had expired, meaning they'd have to wait until 1937 until they were allowed to produce it, hence why it eventually became the Model 37. Despite having to wait such a long time to get the gun out on the market, the Model 37 turned out to be a huge success, as it was a simpler weapon to make than the gun it was based on, and it was also less expensive to mass produce too. Unlike most shotguns at the time, the Ithaca Model 37 shells were loaded and ejected from the same port on the underside of its receiver, so it was less likely to get some dirt or debris stuck in its mechanism, making it a bit more durable in harsh environments. It wasn't exactly designed with military adoption in mind, being primarily targeted towards the sporting market along with the police. But the weapon did see some action with the US military throughout the Second World War, the Korean War, and service use in Vietnam years later as well. The end of World War II meant the end of a lot of guns' production life cycles, but this certainly wasn't the case for the Model 37. If anything, it was only just getting started, because mass production resumed, and many different variants of the weapon would follow for many years later. In fact, the Ithaca Model 37 is still being produced today, the only pre-World War II shotgun to be done so too, meaning its production life has spanned over 80 years, the longest run of any pump action, with well over 2 million models being made overall, making it one of the most successful shotguns in history. Anyway, time to look at the Model 37's stats and compare it to the other guns. The Ithaca's going to fire the same number of pellets per shot as the 12G automatic and the M1897, 32 per blast, which is kind of average. Something that isn't quite so average, however, is the gun's maximum damage, as it can dish out a total of 11.2 per pellet up to the range of 6 meters, which is where that damage will suddenly drop off a cliff, dealing just 3 damage per pellet 1 meter further, which will slope down gradually from here, eventually reaching the minimum damage of just 2 per pellet at the range of 24 meters. So it's a kinda similar damage pattern to the other shotguns, with an even higher close range damage output per blast, potentially making it even deadlier within CQC, and therefore often allowing it to kill in one shot more reliably if your opponent happens to be within 6 meters. The M30 drilling might fire more pellets than the Model 37, but because that gun's got a lower maximum damage per pellet, this actually gives the Model 37 the superior power per shot in those extremely short distances. But then again, all of the shotguns are still going to be lethal within close quarters. It's just that there's more chance of your target going down with a single shot when using the Ithaca, due to the weapon's stronger power. With that said, the Model 37's damage is going to drop off a meter or two earlier than some of the others, so this might give it a slight range disadvantage in comparison. The heavy load specialization will help to make up for some of this lost range however, putting it on par with the base M1897. And the fact that the gun shoots at the rate of 150 or 180 RPM gives it some pretty competitive kill times, being quicker than quite a few of the others. Holding down the trigger will allow the Model 37 to slam fire, so you can take full advantage of this faster than average fire rate and high CQC damage, often making it seem even better suited for those up close and personal gunfights. Moving on to the accuracy stats next, the Model 37's pretty much got the same kind of recoil pattern as the 12G automatic, with an upwards kick of 3 degrees and horizontal figures of 0.5. So it's not going to be quite as accurate as the M97, which is less likely to jump off target, but at least it's going to be a bit more stable, with a lower vertical value that's going to equate to less upwards kick. This will probably make the gun feel slightly more controllable when firing consecutive shots, which is definitely a good thing, considering the Model 37 can shoot quite quickly with slam fire. Generally speaking though, these recoil stats aren't anything out of the ordinary, with the M30 drilling still boasting the heavier values. And this can also be said for your shot's muzzle velocity too, with those shots travelling through the air at 333 meters per second, the same as all of the other buckshot firing models. One stat that is going to affect your accuracy though is the weapon's choke, which is basically the spread of your pellets per shot. And in the Model 37's case, this is actually one of the stronger factors, having a slightly narrower choke than average of 2.25 degrees. This gives the gun less spread per shot, and therefore means that your pellet groupings are going to be a bit tighter than normal, potentially making it more effective at landing more pellets on target as a result. One-hit kills are still going to be less reliable beyond CQC because of its slightly earlier damage drop-off, but this smaller choke will at least help to make up for some of this lost damage over distance. With the internal choke specialization, this will make this already low spread value even lower still, dropping it down to just 1.5 degrees, which is good for boosting the gun's accuracy over range by essentially allowing more pellets to land on target, increasing the damage output in the process. So the Model 37 holds up to 5 shells at a time as standard, usually enough to be able to kill a few enemies up close, providing you can land your shots, and providing they're within the gun's lethal range. 5 shots is a pretty normal amount to have, with the likes of the 12G Auto and M97 also boasting 5 shell capacities. With the gun often dealing a bit more damage at point blank range, this should seem viable enough if you're within a building or tight space. With that said, as the Model 37 doesn't exactly have the best power over distance due to its damage dropping off a little bit earlier, it still might take quite a few trigger pulls to bring someone down a tad further away. This is where the Model 37's extended mag specialization nicely fits in, because just like with the 12G automatic, that's going to bump your ammo capacity up to a total of 7 shots, giving you an extra couple of shells to kill another enemy or account for a few misses, overall granting the gun with a decent mag size. Reload times are pretty average, as it'll be a tiny bit quicker to replace individual shells than the 12G Auto, but there isn't really a hell of a lot to compare, as it's going to take the M37 between about 1.5 to 4.1 seconds to replace 1 to 6 shells, and performing an empty reload can equate to a slightly longer animation, taking up to about 5.1 seconds, slotted in all 7. If you've not got that extended mag spec applied, then you'll only be able to reload up to 5 shots, which obviously won't take quite as long to do. And if you've chosen to use the quick reload spec, this will cut those times down even further by about 15%. Because the Model 37 is designed to be used within close quarters, particularly excelling at point blank range with it dealing higher maximum damage, having more shots and snappier reloads is definitely going to go into the gun's favour, as you'll often be using it behind enemy lines where you're going to be most vulnerable, relying on available ammo more frequently. So let's have a look at those specializations. At the top, the Model 37's got access to quick reload on the left and penetrating shot on the right. I'd opt for the quick reload spec in this case, as it'll help to ensure you'll be able to stay in the fight. With the Model 37 being best used within dangerous territory behind enemy lines, the gun's reliability is going to play a much bigger role in your survival, by cutting down the reload times where you're going to be left vulnerable. The penetrating shot spec is a really situational one, as it's only going to help you out in certain scenarios where enemies are all bunched up together in narrow corridors, allowing pellets to essentially pass through players that are being blocked off by other players. And because you'll need to reload quite frequently, the quick reload spec seems like the better all-rounded choice. In the middle section of the tree, you'll be able to find the slings and swivels with extended magazine on the left, increasing your ammo capacity up to 7 shots, plus reducing the gun's deploy time, and on the right side you'll find the bayonet and trigger drop specs, slightly boosting the fire rate up to 180 RPM, and of course, equipping the M37 with its very own bayonet. Because the weapon's already designed to excel within point blank ranges, the bayonet's probably not going to seem like a particularly useful addition, though the fire rate increase could help to boost the gun's lethality a bit by cutting down kill times. With the Model 37 being able to slam fire, that higher fire rate can be achieved easier than ever, so some people might like to run down this side for this reason. Though I still prefer to choose extended magazine with slings and swivels instead, as it'll make the gun even more dependable within its optimal range up close. Plus this also goes better with the quick reload spec too, as you'll be able to get the magazine refilled with more ammo than normal, quicker than normal, allowing you to get through more awkward situations without having to rely on your sidearm. Last of all, we've got access to the internal choke spec on the bottom left, and heavy load on the bottom right. Both of these options are essentially going to slightly increase the M37's range. Internal choke by tightening your pellet spread, and heavy load by extending the drop-off distance by 2 meters. Because the M37's got an earlier range drop off than normal to begin with, I tend to equip heavy load to deal more raw damage slightly further. The gun's already got a fairly decent choke diameter as it is, and I find that it can often benefit from a bit more power over range instead, complementing its use within CQC. So anyway, in conclusion, the Ithaca Model 37 is yet another close range shotgun that can devastate your opponents within shorter sightlines, but is going to struggle to deal any sort of substantial damage against players further away. If anything, the M37 fares even better than usual within those extremely close distances, where your enemies are literally right on top of you, as it's more likely to kill them reliably in one blast due to it inflicting a higher close range damage than average. With that said, this higher damage is going to drop off slightly earlier, resulting in less consistent one-hit kills beyond point-blank range. So in a way, although it's got the potential to be very powerful, it's still not going to take people down reliably all the time within those shorter sightlines, because of its awkwardly early damage drop-off. Thankfully, the gun fires pretty quickly, so this will let you follow up your shots quite nicely if the first one doesn't kill, or if it misses outright. And the fact that the M37 can slam fire, basically letting you achieve its maximum fire rate easier by holding down the trigger whilst hip firing, well, this can also give you a competitive edge in close quarters as well, decreasing kill times by letting you take full advantage of the weapon's decent fire rate. Because the M37's got a pretty tight choke compared to the other shotguns, this can sometimes allow its shots to seem slightly more accurate, with more pellets landing bang on target against opponents slightly further away. So this could result in less shots being needed to bring them down as a result, but only if you can line up your shots perfectly and get your target in the middle of your crosshairs. Otherwise, it could mean that more pellets will miss, due to their spread being less scattered and more directed towards a certain point. A good thing if you're accurate, but not so good if you want to pepper your targets with pellets and hope for the best. Generally speaking, the Model 37 does exactly what you'd want a shotgun to do. It shreds targets up within short sightlines, punishes players within small rooms or around objective points, and it's great for ambushing players passing by. It probably excels at being a short-range weapon even more than some of the others, but doesn't quite have some of the same advantages beyond shorter sightlines. Though if you want a pretty well-rounded boomstick, you can't really go wrong with the Model 37 at the end of the day. So that's it for another one, guys. Hope you enjoyed the video. Thumbs up if you did, and subscribe for more content coming very soon. Thanks for watching, and I'll be seeing you in that next episode.